one of the things that rang in my mind is he says, "Hey, Brock, I'm going to give you these prescriptions because I know you're not going to become addicted to them because you're a police officer." And I remember hearing that. I'm like, yeah, I'm not going to get addicted because I'm a police officer. Like that has any bearings on it, right?
Right. Yeah.
Well, I go home and
they're safe for police officers. Yeah.
they're totally safe. Yeah, there's no effect except for kills the pain. And so, I went home and I started taking them as prescribed. But as I'm trying to get back to work, I'm noticing that I'm going through some stuff in the house with my wife and kids, and it was easier kind of to take a couple extra pills to kind of make everything go away. And so I wasn't really abusing them at this time. I was just kind of self-medicating.
Yeah.
Right. What happened was the step that got me was they medically retired me. Okay. So I come into this boardroom. They saw my injuries. They're like, "Hey, you're a liability. You're a liability. You can't come back to work because what happened."
Why wouldn't they give you a chance to like do on the movies, man, and like get in shape and with the walker?
Well, they did. They gave me a year. They gave me a year to get back. A year, actually probably a year and a half. But in that time, I'd come back to work, and the day I came back to work, I blew my hand out at a Systems of the Down Rob Zombie concert, punching the guy in the head. So I was out on my hand. So I got both injuries that I'm trying to come back to. And finally, they just called me in and said, "Hey, you're no longer fit for duty."
Hello and welcome to another exclusive interview by Recovery Today Magazine at recoverytodaymagazine.com, where first and foremost, we're a magazine of hope. Whether you're considering addiction recovery for yourself or a loved one, or maybe you've been in recovery a long, long time or a little while, you're going to find all kinds of topics related to addiction recovery and really living a happy, successful, and sober life at Recovery Today. My name is Rob Handley. I'm the editor-in-chief of Recovery Today. And as usual, I'm joined by another really cool, really interesting guest with a really, really different kind of a story, one that we have never told before, and there's great need. He's a retired police officer, and he also used to work as an undercover officer that was focused on drug interactions, drug dealers. After he was run over during a drug and child endangerment investigation, guess what? He was prescribed opiates, which you already know the story. It led to a terrible, horrible addiction. Now he's been medically retired after all the injuries that he sustained after the accident, but losing his career and really team connection, a lot of camaraderie, it really pushed him into depression, addiction, something that lasted about 10 years. Today, he actually has 10 years of sobriety under his belt. He's got a really incredible podcast that he's doing, and he's also a sober coach. Please welcome my friend, Brock Bevell. Thanks for coming on, man.
Right on, man. Thank you. That was a great introduction.
Right on, dude. Well, that's your bio, man. I had to cut it all down and pare it down. So you are the first police officer. We were talking, and you were gracious enough to have me get onto your really, really cool podcast. We'll make sure that we put it in here and we'll talk about that. And I really enjoyed getting to know you. Shout out to our mutual friend, Jason, for hooking us up.
Yes.
And connecting us together. And so I appreciate that. But as we were kind of talking back and forth, one of the things that you had pointed out was, or asked, do you have any stories about police officers? We've done some stories a little bit about firefighters and first responders, particularly with PTSD, but not really so much about addiction. And we haven't featured, to my knowledge, in 70 issues, we really haven't featured any police officers. So, I think that it's a great segue because, police officers are human beings as well. They're not, you're not immune, so to speak, from addiction or anything else. You see a lot of stuff, and we're kind of in this age right now where it's really interesting. I've never remembered kind of this whole real focus on police and defunding the police and all of this kind of stuff. So it really is a perfect timing to have somebody on, not only that went through the throes of addiction, depression, and then also into sobriety. So, man, I kind of setting the stage there. I want to thank you for, your message to other police officers and people like that are out there, because you're the only one that I have had the chance to talk to. So thank you.
Hey, you're welcome. I do feel like an anomaly sometimes.
Yeah. I mean, I guess you're really not going to be talking that much about, addiction in police officers. I got to say, I don't really think of it that way. It's a kind of a common one for people to say, oh, first responders, PTSD, but not necessarily addiction. And then you already know, it's funny, as we've told this story so many times, it's like, number one is injury. Somebody says, how do you make a heroin addict? Oh, well, that's really easy. Here's the recipe. Number one is an injury. Number two is prescribed medication. Number three is some time. And then number four, there's your addict, typically. Add that into loss of a career. And as you said, team connection. It's a no-brainer, man. Really.
No, you're absolutely right. And that was the hard part. One of the biggest problems that I feel that's going on in the police department when I was there and today is this unwritten rule that you can't communicate. It's almost like going into an AA hall where there's anonymity. You go into the police department, you go into briefing, and there's absolute anonymity. You can't talk about it because the guys that you're working with, they don't want to hear about it. If they do, they have to appear strong, and you can't show any weakness.
Yeah. That makes sense. Well, let's back up a little bit, man. I want to go through the whole story. Take us into I was a police officer, and you're in Arizona. Were you a police officer? Were you in Arizona when this?
Yeah.
Okay.
Mesa, right next to Phoenix.
Okay. So take us a little bit through the journey, kind of starting, I guess, if you will. Like, I was a police officer, and I don't know, you'd said that you were undercover. I think is pretty cool also, but kind of start us there, and you're working on drug cases and things like that. Kind of take us, right into the middle of the juicy parts of the story, if you will.
That's good, because, what's interesting is all my life I wanted to be a police officer. Growing up, everybody says that, but legit, I read my first grade, hey, what do you want to be when you grow up? I wanted to be a police officer. And the reason is because my dad was a police officer for 2 years early on in his career before he changed into coaching. So I saw his uniform in the closet. I'm like, oh man, I got to do that. I dig it. So basically I put in for the police department. There was 500 and something applicants, and they needed 5 to 7 positions. And I'm like, hey man, I'm just going to give this a bash. I want to try it. And my first attempt, I passed the test, but I remember going in there, all these guys, I didn't fit. I'm in sandals, flip-flops, and I'm in shorts and a t-shirt, and all these like career guys are in blouse pants, and their uniforms are all pressed. And I'm like, man, but I did speak fluent Spanish. So because I spoke Spanish, I think that was a help for me. So when I got in, Mesa's predominantly, what's that?
Tipped you over.
Yeah, it did. It tipped me over. I mean, I was physically fit, so I met that threshold, but I also had a language that I could use. And how many Caucasian people speak fluent Spanish, right? Yeah. So I could infiltrate. I could get involved in conversations and be a good ear, a good listener. So I started in patrol, and in patrol, I kind of geared my traffic stops. I noticed that I did most of my communication towards drug-related cases. It fascinated me, if that makes sense. I love them. I hated doing traffic stops. I hated going to domestic violence. I didn't like writing tickets, but I loved working in-depth investigations surrounding drugs, because I think that takes a different type of person. And it was a person that I wasn't, because growing up, super religious family, right? Super religious, or drugs and alcohol were out of the picture unless we snuck them. Pornography snuck into our lives a little bit, but I'm talking, we were that family that went to church every Sunday. And so very clean cut kid, got into police. And man, I started noticing that I kind of loved that vibe of seeking after the drug guys. And I actually developed kind of a disdain for them and anger towards them, because I'm like, man, I'm seeing these traffic accidents, these kids dying, these families dying, families dying on Christmas from a DUI. And it pissed me off. I'm like, oh, it just fueled me like, hey, I need to do more. I need to do better investigations, write better reports. So, I mean, it was, my tipping point that I loved it. So my goal, because I was very good at working narcotics and I had connected with a team, our narcotics unit on the police department, and I kind of made some connections between some of the guys. So I would do like street level arrest, and then I would send that information up to them. They could go contact that person, they could roll it, and they can turn it into a bigger investigation. And it just seemed like I kind of got lucky. I got into some good cases to where they were able to run with them. And so that's kind of how I got into the we called it the SCAT team, and the Special Crimes Apprehension team. It was an undercover unit. I believe it was 8 to 9 guys, and we worked together. And our specialty was street level crimes and apprehension. So think about prostitutes. We'd arrest a prostitute, we would roll them, and then go have them take us to a dope house. We'd go in there, and we'd become the undercover in a dope house. We'd do the exchange, and then we started writing paper to get search warrants on it. Does that make sense?
Yeah. Yeah.
So we were constantly in trying to do this. So I got onto the SCAT team fairly early in my career. And I think it was because I did speak fluent Spanish, and I kind of had an in with these detectives that worked narcotic street crimes.
Yeah, that makes sense. So I'm curious a little bit about I was going to interrupt you, but you're on a real good flow. I wanted to ask a little bit about why the attraction. So you come from kind of this super religious, no alcohol, no drugs, no porn, you're apple pie, all American sports, your dad's a coach and all that kind of stuff. So was it kind of like the intrigue with the dark side of drugs, of the drug stuff? Or one of the things in my mind from one of my all-time favorite movies that I think about people that are police officers is it came from a movie, The American Sniper, and it's the Sheepdog. Okay. I don't know if I asked you that when we were talking or not, but I love the Sheepdog. For those that might not have saw American Sniper, Bradley Cooper. Someday we'll have Bradley Cooper in Recovery Today because he's actually sober a long time. But the dad is talking to the character. It's a real true story. And he says 3 kinds of people. 1, sheep that are out there, which is most everybody. And they just going about their lives and working their jobs, and they're oblivious to everything. There's really, they're not aware of the wolves. Then the other one is the wolves, and the wolves prey on the sheep. And, that's how they survive. They're bullies and things. They prey. And then the third is the most rare, which is the sheepdog. So the sheepdog, obviously, they go after the wolves to protect the sheep. Interesting kind of dynamics now, because it seems like the sheep are very angry at the sheepdog, or he's saying, hey, you're really the wolves. Actually, my opinion. But was the whole interaction kind of with the drug stuff, was it more from like, I can really get in and do something that's effective? Whereas, writing tickets is kind of BS, and the domestic, you could get killed or something like that. Was it more from like, this is the real where I make an impact? Or was it kind of also from like, this is the dark side, I never had experienced this before?
Man, I think it was all of that. I became a professional pretender.
Interesting.
If that makes any sense.
Yeah.
Like, I felt like I was very good at manipulating. I felt like I was very good at lying. Were
you already a good liar before you were doing that? Or did you develop that skill when you were undercover?
I think I was probably a pretty good liar already, to be honest. And I got to make one clarification. There was porn. That was one of my vices early on. But I became this dual personality. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
And I was able to hide behind the badge.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
So,
that makes sense.
Yeah. And working these cases, I mean, it became an absolute addiction. Like when I got one, this tells you how old I am, but when my pager would go off, I just wanted to get to work.
Yeah.
I had confidential informants calling us. If my team got a call, we would rally up and we would respond depending on what the case was. So it became my new addiction.
I'm thinking of some of these movies. I'm trying to think of who it was. I love movies, of course, but I'm thinking of this one. it was out just a few years ago. I watched it, of course, on Netflix now, but I think it was Gerard Butler, and it was in like LA area, and he runs this special undercover drug kind of team that kind of operates with impunity, and they're kind of outside of everybody else. And my question is, like, they were actually kind of the bad guys. Like, they really weren't much different. And I think even admittedly, they're like, we're actually the same as you drug dealer guys, except for we have a badge, so we can put you in jail. Did you feel like you were a good guy in the throes of that? Or did you feel like you were just above it, like you're really a bad guy, but like, you're in a position of power?
I think our team was phenomenal. And I believe that our sergeants kept us grounded. I could see myself getting out of control if I was allowed, but
Did you guys like steal drugs or anything like that? I don't know if there's a statute of limitations, but
well, I can tell you my first day in SCAT was kind of interesting. I mean, so I go from this patrol officer, clean cut, looking great. I didn't have a chance to grow my hair out, my beard out, nothing, right? And I remember the guy's name was Miles Melian. And so my first drug transaction was in a hotel on West Main Street. We go to the door. I go in with the prostitute. I get introed. We go in. I buy some crack cocaine. I leave with her. They're like, hey, turn around in a couple of minutes, grab one of the detectives, go back in, do another buy. And then when you come out, we'll come in and make the arrest because we know there's dope in the house, right? Fair is fair. So that's exactly played out. I leave the room. They come in behind me and arrest ensues. So we were able to arrest the two perpetrators, drug dealers in this house. And so now we do these reversals in this drug house to where we have the dope and people come to us and we make the transaction. As soon as the transaction happens, we grab them, pull them in the house and arrest them. Right. So you got to think about that. I mean, that was the kind of stuff that we were doing. So we were 100% involved, and that was a good interdiction portion, but not long standing.
So take us to the part where, the plot twist where everything starts to change, and you're also involved. It's something that I'm really passionate about. It's a child endangerment or a potential child trafficking because, the real world of where we are now is that the three main criminal activities are drugs, guns, and sex trafficking, child trafficking. And I was horrified back about 5 years ago to learn. I was at a conference, and they had said that child trafficking, sex trafficking, had taken over as the number 2 criminal enterprise, and it was projected to be the number 1 criminal enterprise by the end of the year. That was in 2015. So undoubtedly, it is the most profitable criminal enterprise today, the most horrific. I have a real heart for children and for people that are abused. So I don't necessarily want to weave that in, but as I remember the story a little bit, you're at some kind of something obviously with your SCAT, and there's a child, etc. And that's kind of to set the stage, I guess. So
yeah, that's a good segue, man. So I had left SCAT at this time. I'm back working. I'm on another specialty unit where we're on bicycles. So we're the bike team, which was actually one of my favorite units because we were free to ride bikes all day, get in shape, but also we're also affecting arrest. Well, because of our experience on the streets, we had local ladies, the prostitutes, who would give us information in exchange for not going to jail that night for a warrant and something like that. Well, we met this lady and she's like, hey, I don't want to go to jail, but I got this situation I want to tell you about. I don't feel it's right. But the scenario is this. There's a lady bringing her 12-year-old daughter. She's going to meet across the street. She's going to prostitute her daughter out in exchange for drugs. So the drug dealer is going to meet her at the car, and hand-to-hand's going to go. The daughter's going to get out. He's going to have sex with her, bring her back, and then mom's leaving.
Yeah.
So that's not what you hear very often.
This happens a lot, though, where drug addicts will sell their children, right? Either sell them into slavery entirely for drugs or for use, right?
Yeah. Back in the day, you don't hear about that, but now you're starting to hear about these family members that are prostituting their daughters out. And of course, we were like, yes, we want to know about it. We're intrigued. Tell us more about it. And she told us the vehicle color, the time it was going to show, what the drug dealer was going to be riding on. He's riding a bike. And so we were like, okay, in exchange for this information, we're going to let you go. And 9 times out of 10, these don't pan out. This one panned out. And the exact time that they said, this truck drives up. There's a female driver, a young girl in the passenger seat. It pulls in. Now think about it. It was like a business complex. There was a laundromat and a liquor store and then a pizza joint. And so we're like, we'll just set up. And she pulls in facing the building, and the drug dealer, Bobby was his name, comes rolling down on his bike, comes up to the passenger side and leans in, just like the prostitute, this young lady had told us perfectly. Leans in, a conversation ensues, and we're like, let's go. So we roll up, we arrest or we detain him, right? The drug dealer, and put him on the curb. I go around and start talking to the lady who identifies herself as Cindy LaFond. There's a funny story behind her, so I could tell you later about it. But so Cindy's the driver. Were you asking something?
No, I'm just I'm kind of laughing at the exact names, and I'm thinking like, do I need to redact this or something like that? Like, I don't know about that.
Yeah.
Maybe you could just say the lady or
yeah, I'm giving her name out, man. I'm selling her out down the river.
Okay.
But that's who she was. I mean, that's hopefully today got blessed and maybe she's doing some good. But so we detain the guy. I start talking to the female driver, and she says, "Hey, I'm a victim. This guy just approached my vehicle. He wanted my daughter for sex. I told him no, and I was getting ready to leave."
Yeah.
Right. But luckily, we had prior information, because if we didn't have that prior information, that was probably a valid reason,
Yeah.
But what was crazy was I looked down on her floorboard and I saw a baggie of drugs, and in the baggie was a vial, like a clear vial that almost looked like a steroid. You've seen a steroid vial, right?
Sure.
Yeah. And some syringes. So I'm telling my partner, I'm like, "Hey, Max," and I'm telling him 15, which means, hey, she's going to be arrested, but let's switch positions so you can come contact her, get her information, and I'll keep an eye on the guy. And so just so you understand, the vehicle's pulled in here. Max comes to the driver's side and starts talking to the female. I'm at the back right tire behind it, and my feet are positioned so I can look at him, but I can also cover my partner. And I remember him saying, "Can I have your name?" And she's like, "F this." Now, I have to admit, this was one mistake we made as police officers. For some reason, we did not have her turn her vehicle off. Why? To this day, I don't know. But she's like, "F this." She gets on the steering column, throws it in reverse, and reverses out. Well, she catches Max under the car. He trips and falls. She runs over his back. I get my right foot caught under the back tire, and I go to pull, and it snaps my bone in my foot. And I'm like, crap. And then I step forward to catch myself, and she hits me right in the knee and blows my knee out. Luckily, when she reversed back, she got stuck. Her tires got stuck like this in a median. They got wedged. Like how that happened in a big old pickup truck, I don't know. We were able to run up to her. We were able to
broken leg and broken knee and all that. Run up to her.
Up. Yeah, my knee was pretty bad, and I remember it looking like Stretch Armstrong when you stretch him out.
Yeah, wow.
And I looked down, I'm like, but I was pissed off. You know what I mean? I was so mad. I'm like, I cannot believe she just hit and ran both of us over. So that was going through my mind, and we were able to detain her. Here's the caveat. Here's the bad thing about this. This lady never should have been out. It was Friday night, on a Friday, I believe, Friday, Saturday, but she had seen the judge. She was in jail for multiple felonies. The judge, she goes in front of the judge. The judge says, "Hey, I see you have multiple felonies. I'm going to give you an opportunity to leave, go home, get your affairs in order, and then come back on Monday for sentencing. So she goes home and gets her daughter, comes back to the Valley and tries to sell her.
Yeah, going to do another horrible, heinous felony.
Yeah.
All right. So hopefully she went to jail, right?
She did. She went to jail.
She was in the pokey, and okay. Hopefully for a good long time. So take us through then, like the next, like step 1, step 2, injury. Right.
Yeah.
So now you take these as prescribed, right?
Yeah. So I get this injury. I go see my doctor, great doctor. Him and I became friends over this. I had a surgery prior from an incident from a foot pursuit that I blew my knee out in. And so I already knew this doc. And one of the things that rang in my mind is he says, "Hey, Brock, I'm going to give you these prescriptions because I know you're not going to become addicted to them because you're a police officer." And I remember hearing that. I'm like, yeah, I'm not going to get addicted because I'm a police officer. Like that has any bearings on it, right?
Right, yeah.
Well, I go home and
they're safe for police officers, yeah.
They're totally safe. Yeah, there's no effect except for kills the pain. And so, I went home and I started taking them as prescribed. But as I'm trying to get back to work, I'm noticing that I'm going through some stuff in the house with my wife and kids, and it was easier kind of to take a couple extra pills to kind of make everything go away. And so I wasn't really abusing them at this time. I was just kind of self-medicating.
Yeah.
Right. What happened was the step that got me was they medically retired me. Okay. So I come into this boardroom. They saw my injuries. They're like, "Hey, you're a liability. You're a liability. You can't come back to work because what happened."
Why wouldn't they give you a chance to do on the movies, man, and get in shape and with the walker?
Well, they did. They gave me a year. They gave me a year to get back. A year, actually probably a year and a half. But in that time, I'd come back to work, and the day I came back to work, I blew my hand out at a Systems of the Down Rob Zombie concert, punching the guy in the head. So I was out on my hand. So I got both injuries that I'm trying to come back to. And finally, they just called me in and said, "Hey, you're no longer fit for duty." And I understood that. I in the back of my mind, I was always like, "Man, can I handle a major fight?" Some of the fights that I had been in the past, I'm like, "Man, could I handle that? Can I get pushed down a flight of stairs? Can I support the guys that I need to support?" And so at the moment, I was okay with it until they said, "Hey, well, you need to come in tomorrow, turn all your gear in." And I was great. I was great until I walked in there and I gave them my keys. And then there was that realization, like, how am I going to come back here? Like, how am I going to continue meeting my guys? And I'm not going to have that camaraderie. So I go home. And man, I'm telling you what, the depression, the sadness, the sorrow, the guilt, the shame, everything started setting in because I have this remorse that I'm not there with my guys.
Did the other guy that got his back run over, did he have to retire too?
He ended up quitting later on due to just all these injuries. And yeah, I don't believe he took a medical retirement, but he did. He is no longer in the police department.
Okay.
Yeah, my injuries were more severe than his were.
So now this whole time you're still medicating, I assume, too?
Yeah, I am, but I'm trying to get back to work, so I would extra medicate. But here's what we need to understand. I was a master manipulator, right? I worked undercover, so I know what people look like. I knew signs and symptoms. I knew how to communicate. I knew all that stuff. So my wife, my kids, my church family, nobody knew that I was suffering because I used these skills that I learned before and implemented in my life so nobody would know.
So still to this day, you'd ask your wife or your kids and they're like, "We had no clue."
My wife, no, they have no clue. Actually, my wife said, "You never had an addiction."
Oh, wow.
Yeah. It's been a long time. We've been divorced a long time. There's still some animosity there, but she didn't. My kids have come to it. This is an interesting part. During my addiction, okay, I had a friend that I would give my pills to, he would come down and sell them and then bring me the money. So what I despised and hated and these drug dealers, I became. I became a drug dealer through him. And
Yeah.
so here you are, you're a police officer, you're an undercover officer, you're supposed to know better and you're dealing to your best friend. And so that. I mean, I still struggle with that a little bit, man. I'm like, I can't believe how far down these drugs took me.
Yeah, completely. So that rabbit hole that lasted for 10 years. Is that what you said? It was a 10-year period.
It did, man. I went through, I mean, I lost my family originally. I mean, I have a relationship with them now that I'm still working on. I have my older daughters, they really struggle. And I understand that they really struggle with dad's behavior. And of course, that addiction took me places that it should never have taken me. It took me to affair. It took me to sex abuse, sexual addictions, stuff like that to myself. Not mean nothing with the kids, but just like going down a rabbit hole of things that I never would have done. And my moral compass was straight up broken.
What was the rock bottom? Yeah,
one of my rock bottom was I was driving up to visit my kids. I've been separated. I knew I went through the courts. I had part-time custody of them. And I was driving up through the Salt River Canyon to go visit them. I lived about 4 hours from them. And it just sucked. I mean, you go from being a good dad, you go from seeing them every day to seeing them once a week, once every 2 weeks, if you can get up there. And I was driving up the canyon and I was sad, man. I was pissed off. I was depressed. I felt total guilt and shame for who I'd become. And, I had my service revolver or service pistol, my 40 caliber in the center console. And I picked it up and of course, it's loaded. That's how we carry it. And I put it up to my face and, I was about to pull the trigger and I heard my son, Taven, he's my boy. And I heard his voice say, "Dad, you're not a chump. You're not going out like this." And I heard it like he was like you and I are talking. Like he was sitting next to me in the seat. And I'm looking around going, oh my gosh, and I put the gun away and that was kind of my rock bottom. And I remember a few months later, I go home and I'm in my bathroom. I open my cabinet up and I see all my pills in my cabinet and all the pills are perfectly placed. They're all accounted for. There was notes on the pill bottles, like how many. And then I went to shut that door. And, the mirror shines into my room. And I looked at it and said, you live in a crack house, man. Your house is destroyed. Your room is disgusting. You haven't done laundry. It stinks. And you got a problem. So this is where my biggest mistake happened, Rob. I opened the cabinet up out of haste and I undid every single cap and dumped every single pill into that toilet. Everything I owned. Into that
sounds
toilet.
that sounds like a good thing though.
I flushed it and then I realized you're in trouble. You have no more pills. And I can't go to the doctor, right? I can't go to the doctor. He just give me he had just give me a refill, those big bottles. They were sending me home with 390 pills, 180 pills. This was back, when they'd give you those big bottles. And how do you go to him and say, hey, I'm out.
Yeah,
I'm out. And so I went through every scenario in my brain. Hey, can I call my buddy? Can he get up here and get me some, how am I going to do it? And then I'm thinking, you know what? This is it, dude. You've got to get off it and you've got to detox. And I think that's one of the biggest problems right there and why people don't want to get off opiates. They don't want to get off heroin because it sucks. It's the worst pain in the world. I would rather be run over again and again and again, that initial pain, than have to go through that detox.
Wow.
I mean, does that make sense? Like that's honest. And this was before I didn't know about rehab. I didn't know about self or help through detox. I didn't know I could go and medicate through detox or go to the hospital and get some help. I didn't know this, man. I was on my own. I had pissed my family off. I had no friends, and I was at a dark spot. And so I detoxed 100% alone.
Wow. Wow.
And it was ugly. It was ugly, man. I crapped myself. I threw up on myself. I laid in the shower for days and days. And when the shower got hot, I would turn it on and I just laid there. And I was puking so hard that I felt like my bones were becoming brittle. And the next throw up, I was going to break a bone.
Wow. That's pretty bad, man.
Well, I mean, yeah, but every opiate addict will tell you that it's the worst damn pain.
So from there, obviously you can they don't have to go through that. They can medically detox, right? There's a lot of different things, naturopathic detox too.
Yes.
They don't have to go through that. I can only remember a couple of people that we've interviewed. One of them was NBA player, turned into an opiate addict too. The number 2 pick in the NBA, Jay Williams, played for the Bulls for a couple of years, crashed his motorcycle. And now he's actually with ESPN, but he cold turkey too, man. Actually, did not recommend it. Said it was the same thing that you're saying. It's just freaking hell. But people do not have to do that. How were you able then to stay? Was that 10 years ago? Did you relapse? How did you?
That was it. Once I made that commitment. So there was a 7-day journey in there. Day 3, I remember having a conversation with my higher power, and I have a good relationship with him, to be honest with you. And I said, okay, hey, I'm ready. I'm good. I get what you're telling me. And I heard him. I don't know if I was hallucinating by this time or if it was him talking to me, but he goes, "You're not even close. You're not even ready. You're going to go through this." Right. And because I know I had, you know, as well as I do, most people, we make these agreements with God. Hey, if you get me out of this situation, I'll never use again.
Yeah.
And I had done that. Hey, if you let me just stop taking these opiates, I'll have a better relationship with my kids. I'll be worthy. I'll be righteous.
Sure.
I'll be a good father. But this went for 7 days. And on the 7th day, and this is a true story I can give, is I remember pleading with him saying, if you just let this, if you either got to kill me today or you need to let me walk out of here, because I can't go another day. I'm broke. You know what I mean? I have no more food in the house, and nobody has checked on me. Like that's a sad situation. That was more mental than anything. I'm like, where are my people at, man? Where's my family at? But I had alienated them, and I was so secretive. They didn't even know.
Yeah.
And so day 7, I said, okay, God, here we go. If you give me power, if you give me strength to get up and stand up and walk, I'll never, ever use again. And that's my commitment to you today. And I felt it was an immediate change, immediate power, strength. And I got up and walked out of that bathroom, and it's been over 10 years and I have not gone back and used one time.
Good for you, man.
That's it. I mean, I wish I had. I mean,
what did you do about but the thing is interesting, like about opiates and whatnot, is we say, you know, the thing is they're very good at, they're very good at removing pain. You know, they eliminate pain. The problem is, so any pain in your body, they eliminate pain. The problem is they eliminate your emotional pain too. And they make the pain go away. That's, so, and everybody, most are, I think, has got some degree of pain, that they're dealing with. So how did you deal with the mental side of it that would have led to the pain that you were trying to remove? Like, just because you decided to cold turkey didn't mean that went away. So how did you process that? What did you do, man?
I love that question. I was scared to death to go back and use. Number one, I never want to go through that again. And addiction is a progressive disease, if that makes sense. We always hear about, alcohol is progressive.
Yeah.
And a lot of people don't understand what that means, but I would have went back to day 20,000. I wouldn't go back to day 1 and start using 1/2 opiate pill again. I would go back and I would self-medicate and use them all.
Yeah.
Does that make sense? And so that's where the problem, I was scared because I knew well enough. And then I fixed my tribe. I fixed my community. And that was one of the
But how
things
did
where
you know how to do any of this stuff? Like you screwed up your life, okay? Like for trauma, that you already had stuff going on, so you screwed up your life. And I don't mean that in a just
no, totally screwed up my life.
right. You screwed up your life, and then you come to this spot like I got to get off the drugs, but you're already in this mental loop originally that led you to the event that happened. It's just a match probably that lit that just ignited the whole thing. So now you're off of the drugs though. How were you able to find your way out of the woods mentally though? Because you're still in the same spot. I don't understand. Like no therapist, no, like what, how did you navigate your way out of it and start thinking, oh no, this is the correct thought. This is the healthy thought. This is the unhealthy thought. This is, shame and stuff like that is not going to serve me, but this is like, what did you do? Like,
I'm not going to tell you I'm perfect at it because still today I struggle with some of that trauma and I struggle with that shame still because I'm trying to work through that. But at that point in time, I poured myself into 4 things: my home, my health, my community, and my purpose. I had to find something bigger than me. Does that make sense? So
yeah.
I
So
had
are
to
you
look.
not, is your method, are you 12 step? Are you non 12 step? Like, where do you think of yourself now?
That's a great
It
question.
doesn't sound like what I'm not hearing in there at all is I went to meetings and I got a sponsor or something like that, which is to us, like generally most of the content that we do within Recovery Today generally is 12 steps. But our approach has always been, my approach, our philosophy has always been like, don't really care how you get there. Some people are faith-based or like, I heard God talk to me and that was it, took it all away. If that works, great. So, but I'm not hearing any of that in yours at all. Like
I didn't, a few years later, I started a recovery program. Okay. So for the last 5.5 years, 6 years, I've been running a drug and alcohol recovery center up in Northern Arizona. And in our program,
Flagstaff.
Sholo.
Oh, I love
Just east a little bit. Oh, beautiful place. What we did was we put our focus in what works for you. So with me, I had a relationship with my higher power. That's where I dove in and put all of my eggs. But I do understand the 12 step. I understand that I had to go through a lot of the amends process. I had to forgive myself. I had to give back. So I utilize in my own life the 12 steps. The only thing I struggled with is repeatedly telling people that I'm an addict. There was a point I'm like, okay, listen, man, I wasn't, and I don't believe in those commercials where it says, hey, I was an addict and now I'm not. I get who I am. I know I'm an addict, but I'm also a hell of a dad. I'm also a father. I'm also a husband. I'm also important in the community, so I have all these others. And so I kind of try to put my effort in who I am as an individual, identify who I am, and have some purpose in my recovery to give back. So that's where I put all my energy, is sharing my story with others.
And did you read books or listen to seminar? Like how did you change the information that was going in?
Absolutely. That's some of the stuff that I really focused on, is changing my cage and identifying how to change my mindset, right? Mind, body, spirit were the 3 things. And they're talked about all over the internet. I started getting into CrossFit. I started getting into exercising, and I just poured all of my energy into that.
If somebody came to you in a similar situation today, what would you recommend? That you're not a therapist or anything like that. Obviously, you're very intimate in the drug treatment, with a place that you are either at or used to be there in Sholo. What would you recommend? What would you tell them?
I love it. So I'm gonna give them opportunities to try out different things. Hey, let's go to 12-step meetings, see how you like it. Because there are people, that book is phenomenal, right? People are getting sober. Millions of people have been sober through AA. So I would never knock it. So the first thing I'm doing is taking you to AA. I'm taking you to NA. I'm taking you to church. I'm taking you to see if I can find you a sponsor. Let's work some of these steps that are important. And so I would base it around tools that I can find for this individual that will help them individually.
Got it.
For example, I'm an addict. My brother's an addict. He loves AA. He pushes AA. And I didn't get sober through AA, but I'll never talk bad about it because I see people getting sober.
If it works, man, if it works,
if it works, work it.
Yeah, if it works. So, not necessarily about that brother, but I do have to weave in here because, there's an elephant in the room that you and I had made a connection as well. So you have a brother that's a pretty famous brother. So again, forgive me for, I want to have the interview about you, but dude, I have to call it out. Like you have a brother that's a famous brother and you're not one of those people like, hey, don't talk about my family. I think. So who's your brother, man?
My brother's the head coach of the Detroit Lions.
That's pretty amazing, man.
Yeah. Just happened last week. I mean, I feel bad for Matt Patricia. I don't know the guy, but anytime you
He's the head coach of the Detroit Lions.
He's got 5 games to show it. He's got 5 games. He has an opportunity. Let's see what happens.
Yeah. I thought it was funny because I live in Seattle and I love NFL football, most of it. I'd like to see people in the stands, quite honestly. But I love NFL football. I love the Seattle Seahawks. It's my team that my wife and I follow and watch, and my family. And so your brother, Daryl Bevell, was the offensive coordinator. He was the offensive coach for the Seahawks. That was how, I don't know all the coaches in the NFL. I know some of the more famous ones.
Well, they won the Super Bowl with him.
Huh?
They won the Super Bowl with him.
They went to the Super Bowl twice with him.
Back to back. Yeah. 49 and 50, right?
Yeah.
And they lost the second one on the 1 yard line.
Because your brother made the wrong call. No,
yeah, right. Man, that's debatable to some.
I'm just teasing, man. I'm just teasing. I'm just kidding.
That's a story. We've built some curriculum in our program around that 1 yard line play.
Yeah.
And
for those that might not know, or they're not big football people, Seahawks, Patriots, 2014, they're coming back. They were down a whole bunch. The most amazing, 40-yard bomb catch to Jermaine Kearse. He bobbled it, fell on his back, and caught it between his knees. It was incredible. We're going to win the game on the 10-yard line. Marshawn Lynch, one of the best running backs ever, gets the ball and he runs it and he gets to the 1 yard line. And it's second down, I think. And we got 27 seconds or something like that. I don't know what it was. And all that you got to do, you think, is hand it to the running back who runs it in. Although people don't know, he actually was not very good statistically. And he didn't have a good track record of making it over from the 1 yard line. The guy's incredible, and I think there was going to be 2 plays or something like that. If they threw it and it didn't go, then they would have still one more chance to do it. Yeah,
because they didn't have any timeouts left.
No timeouts. And so Russell, when they called a little slant play, somebody didn't execute. They missed a block or something. The Patriots, Bill Belichick is a freaking genius.
Yeah.
He knew that they liked that play. They had practiced it. And freaking Russell Wilson got picked off on the 1 yard line, and the Seahawks lost the Super Bowl that they were going to. And obviously, I know everything because I'm a fan. Yeah. And there was the big rage, and your brother was under fire, and all the kind of stuff like that. So that little bit of football stuff. But how cool is it that he's now the head coach of the head coach of another team, man? And he's got nothing to lose because the Detroit Lions suck really bad. In fact, they usually suck really bad. So he's got a low bar. He's got 5 games left.
They need to beat the Bears. That's a big rivalry game.
We'll be pulling for your brother, man.
There's a correlation between this, though. What's funny is people have talked to me this week and said, hey, man, your brother's there. What they don't understand is the grind that he put in to get to this spot. It's the same grind that we put in our sobriety to get to this spot.
Is your dad still living?
Yes.
So what is your dad? Your dad's got to I assume your dad's a football coach. You said he was a coach, right?
Yeah, he was a football coach.
I know that he's got to be proud of all of his kids, right? But I'm curious, what's your dad think of his son being the head coach, man?
Dude, Daryl's been the favorite from day one. Let's be honest. I mean, come on, man.
Is he the oldest? Is he the
Yeah,
oldest?
he's the oldest brother. It's my
All
sister's
right.
the oldest, and then me. Yeah.
All right. That's
So
funny, man.
he's been the favorite. We all know it. Every family member knows it. He's just a different guy. You know what I mean? Like he is the most black and
When they
white.
come to Phoenix, man, and they play the Cardinals, do you get tickets and you go out for dinner and whatnot? I assume, don't you?
And we go down and see him. That's a big thing. That's a big family. That's COVID's been hard because we can't, but usually he'll see us pregame and then he'll see us after game at the
Have they already played? Have they already played the Cardinals?
Yes, remember they beat the Cardinals. The Lions beat the Cardinals this year.
In Phoenix? So you went. So you went?
COVID.
Oh God!
Nobody got to
stop
go.
Stop COVID.
Yeah, we didn't get to talk to. I mean, we didn't get to see him at his hotel. It's
oh man,
totally locked down.
So bad, man. Well, cool, dude. So I apologize.
I love it.
Entirely on you, but it's not just you. Like you got a cool, really interesting family that connects at least to me and the kind of the football side, and we hit it off that way. So for whoever out there is also living through a football person, fantastic.
Yeah.
So. Really cool story. So what are you doing now and how can people connect to you?
Today, I left the recovery program. I wanted to do more individualized coaching. So I have a website, www.chasethevase.com. You can also look at the
VASE, Chase the Base.
Vase.
Vase.
Vase, like a vase.
Oh, okay. VASE, Chase the Vase. Is that like the book, The Blue Vase or something?
The Go-Getter, yes.
The Go-Getter. Yeah, I love that book.
Yeah, we're always chasing sobriety, brother.
Is that what that is? Is that what that is? I'm wondering.
Yes.
Chase the Vase. Okay, I like that, man. Cool.
Yeah, William Peck, man. That's how we started a story I heard when I was 8 years old.
Yep, I love
in a locker room, in a college locker room. So I loved it, man. It resonates for me. And then, like you said, you were on the www.2020recoverysummit.com. They can find both of us there. They can learn more. Just
so cool that you put that together. So www.recovery, what was it again?
2020recoverysummit.com.
2020recoverysummit.com. And you had a lot of other really big renowned people in the recovery space.
Yeah, 34 people came and gave light and knowledge. Man, they were awesome. You did awesome. I thank you again for that. Just, like you said, there's so many ways to find sobriety. If I said, hey, my way works, I'm foolish to think that.
Yeah, I just don't like the whole idea of well, you're not really sober. I've got 26 years. Somebody told me one time I was a dry drunk. Like, really? That's kind of a while. But my opinion has always been like, if there's no issue, and actually the real litmus test is, so if you're happy, you're working your job, you're, moving along in life, and more importantly, you have people around you that love and care about you. And they also feel the same way. And your boss or your business partners or your customers or whatever would say, oh, John, Brock, Rob, or, Mary, they're awesome. And so it's not just your delusion in your head. And however you got there, in my opinion, you're happy, like, great for you, man. Like, keep doing that,
The key is to share it now.
And to share
people need to know how you got there, Rob.
Yeah,
I'm telling you, man, you need to share your story and know more.
Yeah, my story's a little bit kind of somewhat like your story, but I don't want to really pigeonhole anybody down any particular path other than to say we're open to every path, man. I really don't. It doesn't matter to me. I do think that transforming your mind, and one of the things I will mention quickly on that, because I do like to highlight and underscore it a little bit, is the part, this is just my opinion, it sounds like obviously yours too. I don't like the label of I'm an addict. I don't like the I'm powerless necessarily, only because, and this is just my personal philosophy, I really feel that words that you speak out of your mouth have massive power. I don't even like, as a Christian, I don't even like the word sinner. I don't say I'm, there's songs that say I'm a sinner. I know I'm a sinner. My opinion is no, like the ER part of whatever that word is, I'd ask people, can you run? Yeah, I can run. Can you swim? Yeah, I can swim. Would you say that you're a runner? Well, no, I don't run, So would you say that you could swim? Yeah. Well, are you a swimmer? No, I wouldn't say I'm a swimmer. Okay. Like I'm not practicing that. So in terms of sinner, my own 2 cents, little spiritual side of things is to say, I'm not trying to, I sin, but I'm not
Right.
practicing it. I'm not trying to get better at it. It's not a hobby of mine, you know, type of a thing. So I like there's a lot of people that feel like they have an issue with repeating again and again and again, I'm an addict. Again, though, however, if that's what a part of your program is and it's working for you, cool, man. You know, I don't have an issue with it at all. We just want to be nice and broad. So anyhow, cool interview, man. You're a cool guy. Brother. First police officer we've had. If you're a police officer out there, you're going to want to get back overall to Brock, you know, at Chase the Vase, VASE.com. We'll put everything in here. And yeah, man, thanks for jumping on.
Brother. Happy holidays to you.
Happy holidays, Merry Christmas, Happy Hanukkah, and all the rest of it. This has been another great, fun interview with Recovery Today magazine. We've got Brock Bevell. Thanks, bro. Hang on just a minute.